If you build it, they will come, or will they? Platform teams everywhere are shipping tools, portals, and golden paths, but adoption stalls, satisfaction drops, and leaders don't know why. Thanks for checking out this episode of Operationally Intelligent, the podcast for people turning data into business value. I'm Adam Kinneborough, and today I'm joined by Ricardo Castro. Ricardo is Director of Engineering at FanDuel and a renowned speaker and author on platform engineering. In this episode, we break down the field of dreams fallacy in platform teams, how to use operational data to drive decisions, why you must sit with your developers and use your own platform, and how AI can make platform teams proactive, not reactive. Let's dive in. Hey, Ricardo, thanks for joining me on Operationally Intelligent. Great to have you on the podcast. We've got a really interesting topic to talk about today. But before we get into it, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background, your history through software, DevOps, SRE, and now into platform engineering.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for having me. I've been following the podcast, so for me, it's a pleasure to be here. So a quick rundown of my experience so far. So I studied software computer science. I thought that I wanted to pursue a PhD. I found out a year in that I didn't. So I went and went to a software engineering role, kind of leaned more into back-end type of work. I did a little bit of front-end mobile, but I mostly focused on back-end type of work. Out of necessity, in a big company that I was working for, were a small technology group inside a very big company, and we outsourced a lot of work. So what we started doing was building tooling that would enable freelancers and agencies, because they had to deploy on our infrastructure. They needed pipelines. So my team started doing a lot of that work. And when I came back to Portugal over 10 years ago, I decided that I was more interested in more of the infrastructure operational side of things. That was something that was piquing my interest, and it was more or less around that time that DevOps was really the DevOps movement was really started to kick in. When I'm based in Porto, Portugal, and ever since then I've been cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, platform engineer, SRE, you name it. It depends on what the trendy term is at the moment. But yeah, so that it's basically, it was a gradual transition from more traditional product development into more of operational roles. And in the last few years, I've been focusing more large scale reliability issues. So now I work at FanDuel, so we operate in the US, and we have a very big landscape in terms of infrastructure and services, and I'm working with our teams more on the operations side to how do we ensure that we are reliable.
Great, yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, yeah, certainly pretty interesting. There with you on the sort of back end first engineering approach like that. You're also obviously a great author as well and speaker. You published a blog recently that really resonated with me, a piece on the ivory tower of platform engineering and what you called the field of dreams fallacy, the idea that platform teams build what they think is modern without actually understanding customer pain. Walk me through it. Why do you think this keeps happening?
Yeah, so most of the writing that I do, it's because I've mostly myself, I was fell prey of those pitfalls. So I've been that platform engineering at times. I think I've learned a few lessons over the way, but I do think that so platform engineering as a known discipline, I think it's still recent in the industry, although many of us have been doing some sort of platform engineering in the past. So the best teams that I was part of, or that I've met in other companies, DevOps teams or infrastructure teams, they were already kind of platform teams. They just wanted to get out of the way of engineers and enable them to deploy and stuff. I do think that we are still in the evolution of what platform engineering is, and I do think that people have some preconceptions of what a platform is. So I think that the platform is this thing, and sometimes they forget to look at the business and say, okay, what are the problems that our teams are really facing, and doing that, so that they come, and that's my feeling from seeing some of those teams, is that people come with a preconception of what a good platform looks like, and they start building it because they went to conference and saw some sort of a Netflix presentation, and Netflix presented something amazing. They're like, okay, this is exactly what we need to do, and maybe that's the path, like to reach there. But there are many steps that you need to take to to get there. And I do think that people sometimes forget. And also the other part of that is that sometimes these platform teams are a little bit far away from product development and the business goals. They're thinking, okay, we are kind of the infrastructure layer, we are the base layer, so we will build what we think is a good thing. It's not their fault, but I do think that that separation makes it sometimes harder for platform teams to understand, okay, maybe this thing that I'm building is not the best thing. Maybe there's a pipeline somewhere that someone is using that's taking 2 hours to run. If I can take that to 10 minutes, it will be a huge, huge gain for the company. And maybe that's a stepping stone to actually building the platform that I want.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, what I guess sort of strikes me about it as an outsider, right? No judgment, is that it sort of fundamentally seems like a failure to use operational data when it comes to decision making, right? Like you say, right? They see the trendy thing that Netflix presented. Suddenly everyone's using Backstage for everything just because Netflix say it's really cool. Platform teams have access to incident data, support tickets, build times, all this telemetry about how their developers actually work. But are they sort of ignoring it in favor of a vision? Is that a fair read?
Yeah, I do think that in some cases that's what happens, and I do think, and again, my fault for doing that at times is that to say, okay, although I'm seeing this kind of data kind of leaning me towards that direction, I do think that using this technology or doing this approach, it's probably better. Because I still think that platform engineering is fairly recent as a concept within our industry. I think some teams are still acclimating to this reality. But I think that's the direction, right? So it's good that platform teams have a vision. That's perfectly fine. That's one of the way that I like to work with my teams. Okay, we have a vision. Let's make incremental steps to get to that vision. But this needs to be backed up with data, right? So if we are investing in this instead of that, why are we doing that, right? What is the benefit that this gives to the business? Are developers unhappy with the platform? Is pipelines taking too long instead of, oh, I just need to build a nice UI? Okay, that's cool, but is that moving the needle in the right direction? For most companies, it doesn't, right? But that's one of the things I say. People, like you said, but people saw Backstage. Oh, Backstage is awesome. I need to deploy Backstage. And then at the end of the day, they say, okay, it's cool, but it didn't really help us that much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was a sort of a platform lead listening to this, maybe starting to get a bit uncomfortable, what do you think are the early warning signs that my team might be drifting into sort of ivory tower territory?
Yeah, so I do think there are probably 2 big ones that platform leaders need to be on the lookout for. So the first one is people not onboarding to the platform out of their own free will, right? So you build this thing and no one really wants to go there. So people should be start thinking about what's happening, right? So I built this thing. I really think this is amazing. Why are people not going there? Most of the time what happens is that they probably, although the platform might be cool, they have like 10 different things that are getting in their way that is not solved, right? Maybe there's an nice UI, maybe there's this new Kubernetes shiny cluster, maybe there's this Argo thing, but there's a whole slew of things that people need to do that's still getting in their way. So I do think that's one of the biggest warning signs, is that if people don't want to go to your platform, that's a very, very big warning sign. And the other one is that if you're a platform leader and you're not measuring things to understand how you are improving, so for example, lead time for change, right? Even if you're measuring, if those things are not trending in the right direction, it's probably a bad sign, right? So I built this thing, it's amazing platform, Kubernetes, et cetera, but my lead time for change is still 5 hours. Like, what's happening, right? So the pipelines need to improve. So I would say that those are 2 of the biggest warning signs that people, okay, if we are not doing those things are not happening, something is wrong.
Yeah. So people don't like it, and things really aren't improving anyway. Yeah, I think that's pretty key. So you sort of let's say you've diagnosed the disease. Let's talk about the cure. You've got this framework. You say sort of go to the Gemba, user interviews, analyzing tickets. How do you actually discover what developers need versus what you think they need?
Yeah, so one of the things that I did early on, before even this whole platform engineering being conceptualized as a concept, is just sit with developers. I think that's one of by sitting is okay. So when I'll sit down next to you. You are developing. Just show me what are the things that you need to do to get this in production. More often than I would like to admit, I would just see things that are like, oh, you actually need to click here and go there and log into blah, blah, blah. Then this takes 45 minutes. You need to go somewhere. It's like, okay, how can I like take note of all of these things and say, okay, I will improve this piece and this piece. So just sitting with people and just seeing how they work, because you will find very often that there are inefficiencies on the way that people work. So if I'm running a pipeline to deploy to a production environment and it takes me like more than an hour, I'll go do something else, and then it fails. Then I have to go back, and I'm constantly context switching. So just sitting in there and talking with people, I think it's a great way for you to understand what are the problems. And the other one is a concept that I like very much, and I like my team to do. It's just dog fooding. You use the same tools as they do, right? So, and if you solve your problem, you solve their problem, and vice versa. So, if it takes them 1 hour to deploy, it will take me 1 hour to deploy. So, I'll probably be very incentivized to scratch my itch. So, I would say that those are two of the things. It's the concept of dog fooding. You deploy, I will use the same tools, because it's not uncommon for platform teams or DevOps teams or operational teams to have shortcuts saying, okay, yes, the development team to do a certain operation, they just need to go through all of these hoops, but I have a kind of a pseudo operation where I can just go to a console, click a button, and it's fixed, right? Because I have so much stuff to do that I need a short circuit. And I think that's detrimental to building a good platform, because you are never incentivized to actually, okay, my developers are suffering from the same pain, so you should be putting yourself in their shoes. So again, just to summarize, is just dog food, just use the same tools, use the same processes, use the same workflows, and then just sit with them. Like spend a few hours a day. Like, okay, we're going to do a big feature rollout for in production this week. It's really critical. Just sit with them. Just see how they work. Just see what the problems are. Are the pipelines slow? Are the tests flaky? Is the problem with the test? Is the problem with the pipeline? And just take notes of these things. And I do think that those things will inform you much better the things that you should be building than necessarily just coming with a high level picture of what a good platform look like and then throwing it over.
Yeah, nice. I find that really interesting, because you're sort of essentially describing like observability, but applied to developer experience.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot on this podcast about sort of instrumenting production systems. What does like developer telemetry actually look like in practice? What could you be measuring to sort of understand developer pain?
Yeah. So I do think there are some things that we could measure and have hard data, and others will be hard data more in terms of subjectiveness, right? So that, and starting with the latter, it's more around developer satisfaction. So just speaking with developers, right? So you did this process. How happy are you to doing this? If I give you another option, would it be better? So some of the questions around the workflows and the things that they feel, because even if some metrics are trending in the right direction, developers might find that oh, this is still too cumbersome. I still avoid doing this, but some things I need to do. So just trying to understand that from the subjective point of view. So, and there's some content out there where you can see like standardized metrics. The Core DX4 framework is a good one as a starting point that you can adapt. And then on the other part is like, what are the real metrics that you should be tracking to actually understand, right, we did this change, things are moving in the right direction, and all developers will be happy. I'm a very big fan of the DORA metrics. So lead time for change failure rate, mean time to mitigation, all those kinds of metrics are really good. Again, they are not, and I say this often, but people sometimes forget, is that they are not a stamp for success. Okay, if I'm in these buckets, I'll be successful. But what we've seen over the past more than 10 years is that the high performing teams demonstrate these characteristics, right? So a high performing team actually have, for example, a lead time for change that it's lower than 1 hour. It's not a guaranteed success, but it's a precursor to success. So if my developers are able to, I have something that is ready to go to production and it takes them less than an hour, they'll probably be much happier than a pipeline that takes 5 hours to deploy to a staging environment, run some tests, blah, blah, then go to production. Then the pipeline flares, they click it again. So it's a very, very good indication that things are going in the right direction.
Yeah. Here's me thinking, complaining about the fact that it takes 45 minutes at Squared Up. You know, I'm just sitting there waiting, like, how much coffee can I drink in that much time? Yeah.
Yeah. So Charity Majors has a few talks around the 15-minute mark. So she says it's either, I think she has a talk titled 15 minutes or bust, where again, your 45 minutes is too much. It's okay, unless you can put something in production in front of users in 15 minutes, it's already too much. And I understand. And of course, the 15 minutes it's just a number that they came up to, but it's this idea that you as an engineer want to iterate as fast as possible. So if you have to be waiting for 1 hour just to get something in front of users, then analyze data and then come back, you'll probably just be doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, what's the, let's say, the single best question you would ask in those sort of, when you're sitting with developers for a bit of
Mhm,
time? What is that sort of best question that surfaces
mhm.
real pain?
Yeah. So what I usually start by asking is, what's the most annoying thing you do on your day-to-day basis? Like, what's the thing that like breaks your heart? Uh, sorry. And it's usually something around like deployments, or it's usually deployments, pipelines. It's usually something or some process that is really, really cumbersome. Right. So, for example, if I need to create a secret that my service needs to consume from a config file, I need to use this CLI, then go there, click that button, make sure that something is approved, blah, blah, blah. So it's usually one of those things. So the first thing that I think is, what's the thing that you dread the most when you have to put something in production, for example? I usually make
Mhm.
it clear that the scope is not just the process of putting it in production, is making sure that stuff is ready to be put in production. Because that usually means that, okay, to be ready to put in production, I actually need to run some tests. I need to put it in some sort of development or staging environment. So in this whole process, what's the thing that annoys you the most? And if it's something that it really bugs engineers, they'll be more than happy to just tell you, okay, pipelines are slow, tests are flaky. I never can get a database for testing. I have too much. It is too much of a pain point to, for example, to have the right data in a staging environment that I can test all of the use cases. They'll be more than happy to tell you, at least in my experience. So that's usually where I go to. It's just tell me what's the most annoying thing or the thing that you dread the most whenever you put in something in production.
Yeah. I read you well, sort of talking about a shift from features shipped to adoption rate, developer satisfaction, time to value. This feels very much like the sort of the core of operational intelligence. Like how do you
Mhm.
instrument a platform team's success in a way that leadership actually cares about? That's
Exactly.
yeah. What I mean, in your view, sort of what is that bridge that gets from the sort of the engineering team's measure of success? What do leaders typically care about in businesses?
Yeah. So the reality is that for most businesses, they are profit driven, right? So there's an incentive to generate profit. Of course, there are some organizations that are more focused on research, but at the end of the day, what businesses need to do is to delight customers, generate revenue, make money, pay employees, and keep growing, right? So at the end of the day, that's the reality. That's a reality for most business. So for us engineers, it's understanding how the work that we are doing actually impacts our customers. So if you have a team that is so far, far, far removed from the actual impact that they have on users, it will be really hard for them to understand or to have that empathy. So, okay, I did this change. Oh, yes, it takes 1 hour, but who cares, right? And it's really hard to have that empathy. So one of the many years ago, I worked for a company where before us joining our development team, we had to spend a month and a half, I think it was a month and a half, in customer support. It was technical customer support, but that for me that was a very big learning experience in terms of, okay, actually see what the problems
Mhm.
that my customers have. Like I can empathize with the problem they have, and it also gave me more of an empathy for the people that are responding to customer support. Say, okay, so if I'm careless with what I'm doing, say, okay, YOLO, right? So I'll just put this in production, and who cares? They will be the ones that will be solved. So at the end of the day, what leaders want is to that customers are happy, that they're paying for their services. So the closer the gap is between what I do and what the company actually delivers and what's important in front of the customers, I think it's super important. So, for example, it's easy. So my teams mostly work on more on operations kind of thing. So it's very easy for them to be a little bit removed from what the customer. So what we do internally is that we make them closer, right? So they need to understand when we're talking about, for example, in our reality, when we're talking about pet placement, they need to understand what that means, right? What services are involved, what's the user actually seeing. It's easy for someone in infrastructure role to say, okay, I never even seen the product that we are. No, we don't do that here. So our goal is for you to understand. Oh, if what the user sees is this, okay, this is the tab, this is the button that they click, and then they're making the translation of what the user is seeing, what the user is doing, and it's actually happening. Like what are the services, what are the databases. So making that bridge, I think it gives you a lot more empathy because you will say, okay, if I do this change that it's risky, how will I make sure that it's less risky, that I can recover quickly. It gives you more, because you know that will have an impact on the customer, and at the end of the day, will have an impact on the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other sort of the other area the other challenging area that sort of helps with is, most organizations are absolutely sort of swimming in data, but find it very hard sometimes to make decisions based on that. But those internal operational metrics like build times, deployment frequency, when you can translate that into sort of impact on the customer, it also helps with things like budget approval for new tooling or more hiring or that kind of stuff. I think there's a really strong bridge. It's not just like showing the value to the customer. It also helps demonstrate the value of your service internally as well, which is often something people really struggle with. I mean, as a Square Up's a software vendor, right? We understand the pain teams have trying to buy new tools, and I think being able to sort of demonstrate that value is pretty key. What do you think is there a metric that platform teams like really over-index that you think actually is just a vanity metric? Is there like the opposite side of it? Are there completely pointless things that engineering teams get excited about?
Yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned before, this will feel like a contradiction to what I said before. But one of the things that I said before is that the platform teams need to be on the lookout is people not wanting to go to their platform, right? So what happens in some companies is that some teams are forced into going to the platform because there's some sort of a mandate from management or whatever it is, but they're not happy. And some teams just over-index on that. Oh, we actually have 80% of the engineering population on the platform. Yes, because they were forced to. It was not out of their own will. So I do think that some teams actually give themselves a little bit of a pat on the back in terms of, oh, we actually have a great adoption on our platform, but they forget the part where yes, people are not allowed to use something else. So because if they had the option, would it be the same, right? So I do think that it's one of the metrics that while it is optional, I do think that platform teams should be on the lookout to say, okay, I'm trying to onboard new engineering teams and they don't want to come here. What is the problem? Is there too much friction? Are we not solving that problem? Do we need to sit with them? When it's mandatory, I do think that platform team just over-index. Okay, they reach a quarter, say, okay, we have 100% of engineering teams on our platform. Good job. I do think that they still need to measure it because you need to understand what's on whatever the old platform is, of course. But just making a huge party and great success when people are forced to move, I don't think that's a good metric.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And I mean, I think in that case, if your adoption rate was 80% for a mandated platform, that's not actually that good, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that probably means that some teams are still they are either resisting for some reason, and you need to understand that, or there's something fundamentally problematic in your platform that it's not allowing them to either do a fast move, or that there's something there that needs, because like you said, 80% for something that's mandated in this example, it's too low. So that's a warning sign, right? So you've been on the 80%-ish mark for a very long time. Like what's happening, right? Why are not the other 20% moving?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a slight sort of shift. I mean, you've been pretty vocal that DevOps isn't dead. We've all seen the funny memes of the headstone with DevOps on it, with the platform engineers stood around. That it's not dead. It's like these disciplines are all complementary rather than competing. But I think there is sort of genuine confusion in the market. So. For someone trying to figure out sort of where to invest, how would you say sort of DevOps, SRE, and platform engineering actually fit together? Is it just one new team? Is it just a rebrand? What's the answer?
So like you said, I've been very vocal that DevOps is not dead. And that's mostly because I do think that DevOps is a shift. It's not a role. It's not a team. But I understand that the push that there was from the industry. So like big companies are like, okay, you're talking about this thing, DevOps, just tell me what to do, right? Is it a role? Is it some tooling that we buy? Tell me the thing that I need to do. And I think that was the thing that was harder, especially in the first few years of DevOps, just to conveying that DevOps is not a tool, it's not a team, it's not an engineer, it's more of a philosophy. And what I usually say is that on a very high level, DevOps, it's all about just aligning incentives, right? I'm a software engineer, you're an operations engineer, you're a security engineer, you're a quality engineer. The goal here is that we are all marching in the same direction and all trying to achieve the same goal. So it's not me, the engineer, trying to ship code, and you, the operations person, just trying to make it stable. No, we want to do both things. We want to ship code and we want to make the system stable. That's the gist of DevOps. Of course, again, companies needed something to do. They needed to like that recipe. So, okay, just tell me what to do. Like, I'll hire an engineer. I'll call it DevOps engineer. We'll build some pipeline, and that's kind of putting in the things in the right direction. But that was not the point. That was not the point of DevOps. What I think with platform engineering is that, like I said, the best teams that I worked in or that I saw in other organizations, they were kind of already platform teams. Different. Again, the landscape was completely different. The technology was completely different, but they were already teams that were already sitting with developers. Say, okay, what is the thing that it's the most painful thing that you do? Okay, it's deployments to production. So we will build you outlines and just get out of your way, right? So you merge this thing into main, and it somehow will land in production, and you only need our help when something very, very different from what you need to do needs to be built, or because something broke. Other than that, you just can move we don't need to be in the middle. So, and I do think that the making platform engineering a thing, I think it's a consequence of what we see from gone practice from many companies. And I do think that platform engineering is something that enables that DevOps spirit, right? You build a platform, you build the tools that our engineers need to ship stuff to production in a secure way, in a reliable way, making sure that the systems are observable. And you as a platform team, you just get out of the way, right? Your role is to enable. So I do think that the platform engineering kind of implements the DevOps philosophy because it gives that tool. I do think that SRE, as we see it today, is slightly different from what it was envisioned originally at Google. So when Google was what happens when a software engineering team does operations, but a lot of the things that we have nowadays in platform engineering also came from those initial teams around SRE. Most teams now are more focused in reliability, but there's a huge crossing of responsibilities between the platform engineering teams and the SRE teams. And the reality is that in many organizations, the SRE team is the platform engineering team, and in other organizations, the platform engineering is the SRE team. What we try to do in most of our teams is that we want SRE teams to be very focused on the product. We understand reliability from the point of view of our users and say, okay, when users say that bad building or bad placement is slow, what do they really mean, right? What are the services that are involved? Do we have enough observability? Okay, so can we work with the platform team to actually build, for example, stuff like canary deployments? Because we see that some services, we actually want our teams to be a little bit more risky, put stuff sooner in front of our users. But if there's something wrong, they need a quick way to revert it back.
Yeah, I think for sort of way too long, I guess what would be now called platform engineering teams, the teams responsible for internal tooling and that kind of stuff. There's just never been that sort of real sort of product mindset applied to it. It's just been like, well, this is an internal tool. It can be really crappy because it just does what it does. But I think the shift towards, seeing developers as your customers, understanding like what they want as if you're building a commercial product. I mean, I think it makes such a huge difference to the ability for everyone, like you say, to sort of march to the same beat to really sort of get the job done. Yeah, I think personally, I think it's a really, really good move, and the meme doesn't do it justice, I don't think. Yeah.
I agree, and it's also an interesting point that you did there. It's made there that it's around that treating it as a product and making sure that it has enough quality. Because if you build something that is very scrappy and it breaks all the time and it gets in the critical part, it is production, right? So if developers depend on a thing that it's constantly failing, your business at the end of the day will suffer it. Yes, it will not have a direct impact for my customer. Yes, I build this new API, it has a bug, and my customer every bug. But if I build this, this pipeline and it takes 4 hours. Yes, every time that I want to put something in production, it will be a dread. So I do think that shift being a product and understanding that, and it's not only engineers, right? So now platform teams are expanding to more scope and they have other customers, but having that mindset, okay, I have customers, they're not my end customer, but they'll be customers inside the company that are serving our end customers, and how can we satisfy their needs better?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you think, I mean, you mentioned observability a couple of times in there. Is that the sort of connective tissue across all of these? It feels like whether you're sort of doing automation or reliability or building platforms, you can't do any of it well without sort of understanding what's happening in the system, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think the observability is kind of the connective tissue between all of these things. So I don't recall who said it first, but there's that saying that says you can improve what you don't measure. So, and it's one of those things like and it also makes a lot of the conversations easier, right? So it allows us engineers to understand our system, say, okay, I have an increased error rate, I have more latency, I have more requests that are failing, et cetera, et cetera. But it also then allows us to make some informed decisions like, why should I invest in A and not in B? Okay, do I have the observability data that will allow me to actually make that decision, right? So if I can go to an executive and say, okay, we really need to invest in more safer deployments because every time, or like 80% of the times that we do a deployment, there's some failure and we take like an hour to roll everything back, right? So if I have that data and I can easily demonstrate the value of we are proposing, it will make a lot of those conversations easier.
Yeah, exactly. In a couple of other episodes, I think I've sort of talked with other guests around the idea that the key with operational intelligence is sort of being able to translate your information, your data, your critical information into signals that other people can care about. So how do platform metrics really impact the sales team? You know, what's the translation there? And so, yeah, I think being able to sort of take observability, make it meaningful for your team, but also use it to really sort of demonstrate value and help make decisions in a much broader context is really, really key to it. Just a couple last questions.
Yes, yeah, I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, great. For a team that's just starting their, say, like their platform journey, maybe they're going through maybe it's a whole new team of people, maybe it's a bunch of people sort of coming together. Maybe they're realizing that they have been building that ivory tower. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to them to sort of get on track?
Yeah, so it will go back to what I said previously on the episode. It's just sit with your engineers, right? So just talk with them. Because it will be one of those things, and especially if you piss them off, say, okay, I built this thing, you are now forced to use something that you don't like to use. They will very, very, very happy to tell, okay, your pipelines suck, your UI sucks, whatever it may be. So, but I do think that we sometimes forget to do that. To do that, just sit down with people, just tell me what's wrong, right? Just having that, I know that, and we kind of sometimes over-index on some of the metrics, but just having those conversations with people, because I see that too often. People just coming, okay, I'll just build this Kubernetes cluster, I'll put Backstage on top of it, I'll put Argo CD, everything will be fine, and then people at the end of the day either are not using it, or okay, I had my change failure rate at X%, and it's the same, right? I've seen that so often that people say, okay, we will put everything, this will be cloud native, containers, Kubernetes, and then you see your change failure rate. At some point, sometimes it's even worse. It's like, okay, what happened? Right? So we build this thing, it's amazing, it has Canary deployments, and it actually got worse. Something is wrong. So I do think that sometimes, and this needs to be done in stepping stones. So just sit with people, say, okay, what is the biggest thing that hurts your day? And people say, okay, it's the deployment pipeline, whatever it may be. Okay, can we fix that? Or can we work with you to fix that? People will be more than happy to work with you. You will get a lot more help and sympathy. Some people will gladly free up some time to actually help you do that work, and then you will build that trust, and you will actually deliver value to the company. So that's my main advice is just talk with people and try to understand what's the thing that pains them the most.
Great, yeah, great. What are you personally sort of most excited about in the platform space right now? What's cool?
Yeah, so I think we're roughly 30 minutes in, and we didn't touch anything around AI. I think nowadays it's mandatory that every episode or every blog post has something about AI. But
Sure.
Jokes aside, joking aside, I do think that there's a lot of opportunity on the platform DevOps SRE world around how can we leverage AI to make us faster and more resilient. I've been a little bit vocal as well around the AI SRE is not just incident man. It's not SRE, right? So most of the AI SREs is focusing heavily on the incident management. SREs, platform engineers, do a lot more than just that. But I do think there are very pockets of things where AI SRE can be very, very valuable. So incident management is one of them. So if I have an engineer that has like 10 minutes to be on a Zoom bridge because there's an incident, if he arrives there and there's an initial investigation, okay, we saw that there was this problem with this business flow. Here are some of the logs that I've seen that are problematic. I've seen these metrics are trending in the wrong direction. Probably the problem is in there. So just going to look, I think that's super, 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 super valuable. One of the things that we are exploring as well is how can we use AI to be more on the preventive side, right? So you have a lot of historical data. So probably an AI can, with large amounts of information, say, okay, I've seen this kind of pattern at this point. I'm seeing this going in the wrong direction at that point. Just look into that because last few times we had three P1s. So look in. So I do think that AI has a lot of potential to help us do that. And platform teams have a lot of work to do on that AI front because things are changing so fast. They change every single week. Someone comes up with a new thing that I do think that some of the platform teams are struggling to just keep up. But there's, again, the change is high, but there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. Completely agree. I mean, it's Squared Up's sort of whole ethos is, connect all your data, bring it all together, stream it all in. No big data warehouses, nothing like that. But the feature I'm starting to explore at the moment is that sort of either sort of predictive alerting or at least the sort of the root cause analysis across Azure DevOps or GitHub or Jira across your platform metrics in different platforms, that kind of stuff. Like, I think AI has that potential to be that sort of first responder to check all the things that you should be checking and just give you that key update. Yeah, great to hear. This has been brilliant. I've really enjoyed the chat. Where can people find your writing and follow your work or go to events that you'll be speaking at?
Yeah, so people can just follow me on LinkedIn. That's usually where I'm most active. I just post. I started to do some posts with the platform engineering community. So I'm now an ambassador. So I'll be posting more in the next few months in there. And other than that, just go to my website mcsricardo.com and I'll be cross-linking stuff in there.
Great. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm hoping some people will check that out. Yeah, it's been a great chat. I've really appreciated your time. So yeah, just to say thanks and keep tuning in to Operationally Intelligent. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. I'm a fan. So thank you very much.
Great.